My name is Claire Nakamura. I am 30 years old. I have been married to James Nakamura for 5 years. And I want to take you to a hotel hallway in Miami, Florida. It is our 5th wedding anniversary. We are staying at a hotel on Collins Avenue in South Beach. The room is 407. I know the room number because I have been thinking about that number for 8 months since this happened, and I will not forget it. I had gone down to the hotel spa in the afternoon. James was going to do some emails and meet me for dinner at 7. The spa treatment finished early, 45 minutes early. I was relaxed and slightly surprised by how good I felt. I took the elevator up to the 4th floor. I walked to room 407. I slid my keycard. The green light, the handle. I opened the door. I opened it approximately 3 inches. In 3 inches of open door, in the afternoon light of a Miami hotel room, from what I saw, I understood everything I needed to understand. I did not push the door further. I did not make a sound. I did not speak. I stepped back. I let the door close on its own, the slow hydraulic close of a hotel room door, which takes approximately 4 seconds, which is exact amount of time to be standing in a hallway, understanding your marriage. I stood in that hallway for a moment. I looked at the number 407 on the door. Then I walked to the elevator. I went to the lobby. I sat in a chair near the window that faced Collins Avenue. And I made 2 decisions that I have not regretted. The first decision? I was not going to go back to that room. The second decision? I was not going to fly home to Chicago as the woman I had been when I arrived. I never flew home. Before I take you back to the beginning, 3 things I need you to hold. First, James and I had planned this trip for 4 months, our 5th anniversary. The hotel had been selected carefully. The dinner reservation at 7 was at a restaurant on Ocean Drive that I had researched and booked and confirmed 3 times. This was not a spontaneous trip. It was a trip that I had built with care and that James had agreed to and been apparently enthusiastic about. Second, I was 45 minutes early. Not an hour, not 2 hours. 45 minutes. In 45 minutes, James had managed to transform a hotel room I had chosen for our anniversary into a situation where I opened the door 3 inches and understood everything. Third, in those 4 seconds while the hotel room door closed slowly on its hydraulic hinge, I made a decision that was so specific and so clear that it has not wavered in the 8 months since. I decided not to give him the confrontation. I decided not to give him the scene. Because the confrontation would become about his feelings and his explanation and his management of the narrative. The confrontation was something he could use. The lobby chair, facing Collins Avenue, was mine. What I did from that chair is the story I am going to tell you. I did not make a sound. And I never flew home. My name is Claire Nakamura. I am a brand designer. I work freelance from a studio in Chicago's West Loop. Client work, brand identity, the kind of design that lives between what a company wants to say and what it actually communicates. I am good at reading the gap between surface and substance. I have been doing it professionally for 6 years. I note this, as I have noted skills in other stories I have told, because the skill is relevant to what followed the lobby chair. James Nakamura is 33 years old. He is a financial analyst at a wealth management firm in the Loop. He is measured and careful in the way of people whose professional lives require precision. He is also in the specific way of people who have learned to be precise about the things that matter to their work, somewhat less precise about the things that matter to the people around them. We met in 2016 at an art opening in Logan Square that a mutual friend had invited us both to separately. James was the person at the opening who was actually looking at the work rather than performing looking at the work, which I find to be a reliable indicator of character. We talked for an hour. He asked for my number. I gave it. We dated for 3 years. We married in the fall of 2019 in a ceremony at a venue in the West Loop. Industrial space, warm light, 90 people. The wedding I had designed with the same attention I bring to client work. It was exactly what I had imagined. James cried when I walked in. I remember that specifically. 5 years. A condo in the West Loop, a marriage that I had, until Collins Avenue, believed was what it appeared to be. The 5th anniversary trip had been my idea. I wanted to mark the milestone, not with something generic, but with something we had built specifically for us. The South Beach Hotel, the dinner, the specific days chosen because we both had room in our schedules that week. James had been enthusiastic. He had booked the flights, he had confirmed the restaurant. What I did not know until 3 inches of a Miami hotel room door, he had apparently also organized other aspects of the trip that he had not shared with me. I am a brand designer. I read the gap between surface and substance. The gap in that hotel room was 3 inches wide and took 4 seconds to close. It was sufficient. Drop your city right now. Chicago, Miami, Seattle, New York, London, wherever you are, drop it in the comments. And if you have ever been somewhere that was supposed to be one thing and turned out to be something completely else in the space of one moment, drop that too. Subscribe to Karma Delivered right now if you have not already. What I did from the lobby chair, and what I did at the airport, and what I have done in the 8 months since is the story you are here for. Subscribe and stay. I want to tell you what the trip was supposed to be before I tell you what it became, because the distance between those two things is the whole story. I had spent 4 months planning it in the specific way I plan client projects, with research, intention, and attention to the detail that makes a thing specific rather than generic. The hotel I had chosen was on Collins Avenue because it had a particular terrace that I had read about that faced the water at a specific angle in the late afternoon that I thought would be the right place for the kind of conversation you have at 5 years, the kind where you are not celebrating the marriage you are in, but the marriage you are building toward. The dinner reservation was at a restaurant on Ocean Drive that had a review I had saved months before and reread twice. The menu was the kind of menu you discuss. I had imagined the conversation. I had also done something that I am telling you about because it matters later. I had written James a card, not a store card, a card I had designed myself on cardstock from my studio with a specific design I had made for it, a small illustration we would both understand, and a message that I had drafted and revised over 2 weeks until it said exactly what I wanted to say at 5 years. The card was in my bag when I went down to the spa. It was in my bag in the lobby while I sat in the chair facing Collins Avenue. I had planned to give it to him at dinner. I did not give it to him at dinner. What I did with the card is what I want to tell you about in a few minutes, because what I did with it is the specific action that was entirely mine in a situation that had otherwise been decided for me. But first, the spa, the early finish, the 4th floor, room 407, the 3 inches. Drop your city right now, because I want to know if there is anyone watching this who has made a plan for someone, a trip, a dinner, something you spent real time and care building, and had that plan meet a reality that had nothing to do with what you built. Drop your city. Tell me what you had planned and what you found instead. I am in every comment. The spa treatment was a Swedish massage. It was scheduled for 90 minutes and finished in 45. The therapist apologized. She had not been feeling well. She needed to stop. I told her it was fine. I genuinely meant it. I felt more relaxed than I had in weeks. I changed, tipped generously, and took the elevator to the 4th floor. I want to walk you through the 45 seconds between the elevator and the lobby chair, because those 45 seconds are the spine of the story. Elevator to 4th floor, 20 seconds. Walk from elevator to room 407, 15 seconds. Key card in the door, 2 seconds. Door opened, approximately 1 second. 3 inches of open door, whatever time it takes to understand something completely. I would say 4 seconds, but I do not know exactly. It felt very long and was probably very short. What I saw in those 3 inches, the afternoon Miami light through the window, the sound of the room's air conditioning, a red dress that was not mine on the floor near the bed, and 2 people in the bed who were not expecting to be seen. I did not look longer than I needed to. I did not push the door further. I did not say a single word. I stepped back. I let the door close. 4 seconds of hydraulic door closing. Standing in a hotel hallway in Miami on my 5th wedding anniversary, watching a door number I will not forget. Here is what I did not do. I did not knock. I did not throw the door open. I did not stand in the doorway until he noticed. I did not call his name. I did not leave a note under the door. I did not text him. I did not call him. I gave him nothing. Because the confrontation, the throwing open of the door, the how could you, the crying, the explanation, the negotiation, all of that was something he could use. It would have given him the chance to manage the moment, to tell a version, to make his feelings the center of what happened next. He had already taken me afternoon. He was not getting the confrontation. I walked to the elevator. I went to the lobby. I sat in a chair near the window that faced Collins Avenue and the flat edge of the Atlantic beyond it. I took my phone out of my bag, not to call James, to book a flight. Not back to Chicago, to my sisters in Portland. Subscribe to Karma Delivered right now if you are not already subscribed, because what I did in the lobby, the specific sequence of decisions I made in approximately 30 minutes while James was still in room 407, not knowing I had been on that floor, is the next section. Subscribe and stay. I sat in the lobby chair for approximately 30 minutes. In those 30 minutes, I made the following decisions. In this order, each one deliberate and each one final. Decision 1. I was not going to return to room 407. Not that afternoon, not that evening, not at any point during this trip. Whatever James needed from that room, my luggage, my belongings, a conversation, he could figure out without me being there for it. Decision 2. I was going to book a flight to Portland, where my sister Nadia lived. Not Chicago. I was not ready to be in my apartment, in my life, in the specific geography of my marriage, while I was still in the first hour of knowing this. Portland gave me 48 hours of distance before I had to face any of that. Decision 3. I was going to text James one sentence only, sent from the lobby at the exact moment I needed him to know I was not coming back to the room. Not before, because I did not want him to have any time to manage the situation before I was already somewhere else. One sentence, after my flight was booked. I opened the airline app. The next flight to Portland departed from Miami International at 9:15 p.m. It was currently 5:47 p.m. I booked it. I texted James at 5:51 p.m. The text said, "I came back early from the spa. I will not be on the return flight to Chicago. My attorney will be in touch." I sent it. He called me 17 seconds later. I did not answer. He called 14 more times in the following 2 hours. I did not answer any of them. At 6:45 p.m., I arranged for a hotel staff member to collect my luggage from room 407 and bring it to the lobby. I had called the front desk and explained that there had been a family emergency and I needed my bag retrieved. They were efficient and professional, and no one asked me to explain anything. My bag arrived at the lobby at 7:02 p.m. At 7:07 p.m., I got in a cab to Miami International. James texted at 17:15 p.m. He said, "Claire, please talk to me. I can explain." I read it. I put my phone in my bag. At 9:15 p.m., my flight departed. I had not set foot in room 407 again. I had not raised my voice. I had not given him a single moment to manage. The anniversary card was in my bag on the flight to Portland. I had made it on cardstock for my studio. I had drawn a small illustration of 2 people at a table. Not representationally precise, just the specific warmth of 2 people who have been at many tables together and have become familiar to each other in the way that 5 years creates. The message inside was about what I had found in the first 5 years and what I hoped the next 5 would become. It was specific and honest, and exactly what I had wanted to say. On the flight to Portland, I took it out of my bag, and I held it for a while. I thought about burning it, the instinct toward dramatic gesture. I did not burn it. I am a brand designer. I understand the weight of something that has been made well. You do not burn good work. I also thought about keeping it and one day being glad I had made it. The instinct toward sentiment. I thought about this more carefully. What I had made was not a document of our marriage. It was a document of who I was in the marriage, what I believed, what I had hoped for. That was not lost because of what happened in room 407. I kept the card. Not to give to James, that was never going to happen. Not as a souvenir of a painful moment. I kept it because it was evidence of who I was before Collins Avenue, and because that person deserved to be acknowledged. The card is in a box in my Portland apartment now. My sister Nadia has seen it. She said, "This is beautiful." I said, "I know, I made it for someone who wasn't who I thought he was, but I still made it." Nadia said, "Then it was always for you." I think that is right. The card was always for me. Drop your city right now, because I want to know who is watching this that has made something carefully for someone and then had to decide what to do with it when the person it was meant for turned out to be different from who you thought. A card, a trip, a gesture, anything you built with real attention. Drop your city. What did you do with what you had made? I landed in Portland at midnight. Nadia was waiting at arrivals. She had not asked questions on the phone when I texted her from the Miami airport. She had said, "I will be there." She was there. That is who Nadia is. We drove to her apartment in the Pearl District, She made tea. We sat in her kitchen, and I told her what had happened. Not at length. I did not need to go through it at length. 3 inches of a hotel room door. A text sent at 5:51 p.m. A flight to Portland. That was the structure. She understood the rest without being told. Nadia said, "What do you need from me right now?" I said, "I need 48 hours to understand what I'm going to do before I have to be in Chicago doing it." She said, "Then you have 48 hours. Nobody knows you are here unless you tell them." James called 11 times on the first day. I did not answer. On the second day, he texted, "Claire, I am in Chicago. I am at the apartment. Please call me." I read it. I did not respond. I spent 48 hours doing 3 things. First, I called a divorce attorney in Chicago. The consultation was by phone. I understood the parameters: Illinois law, the condo we had bought together, the financial picture. I was not operating on incomplete information when I arrived back in Chicago. Second, I walked along the Willamette River every morning. Not metaphorically, literally. There is a path along the waterfront in Cortland that I had run before on a visit to Nadia, and that I remembered as a place where the air is specific and the water is large enough to make you feel appropriately small. I walked it both mornings. Third, I decided what I was going back to Chicago to do and what I was not. I was going back to file for divorce. I was going back to have the conversation with James that he was going to need to have and that I was going to give him, not because he deserved it, but because I deserved the closure of having said what I had to say. I was not going back to consider reconciliation. I was not going back to hear an explanation that was designed to make me doubt what I had seen in 3 inches of a Miami hotel room door. On the third morning, Nadia drove me to Portland International. She hugged me at the departures entrance for a long time. She said, "You know what you were doing." I said, "I do." And I meant it. Subscribe to Karma Delivered right now, because the conversation I had with James when I got back to Chicago, the one I had prepared for in Portland, and what happened after it are next. Subscribe and stay for the rest. I landed in Chicago on a Wednesday afternoon. James was at the condo. He had texted me while I was in the air. "I know you are on your way back. I am here. Please talk to me." I had not responded. I came home to the West Loop condo. Not to stay, to have the conversation I had prepared for in Portland and to collect specific things I would need while the divorce process was underway. James was in the kitchen. He looked like a person who had spent 3 days in the specific way you spend 3 days when something you could not control has happened and you cannot think about anything else. I sat down at the kitchen table. I put my phone on the table. I said, "I am going to say what I have to say, and then I am going to ask you one question. I need you to let me finish, and I need you to answer the question honestly." He said yes. I said, "I came back 45 minutes early from the spa on Tuesday. I used my keycard. I opened the door to room 407 3 inches, and I saw enough to understand the situation completely. I did not say anything. I let the door close, and I went to the lobby, and I booked a flight to Portland. I am not interested in your explanation of who she was or how long it has been or what it meant. I am not interested in the version of this that you need me to hear in order for you to feel better about it. I opened the door 3 inches, and I understood. That is the only version I need." He started to say something. I said, "I am not finished." I said, "I planned that trip for 4 months. I designed the card that is currently in a box in Portland. I researched and booked the restaurant on Ocean Drive. I did all of that because I was in this marriage completely, and I believed you were too. In room 407, I found out the degree to which that was true on your side. Then I asked the question. I said, is there anything about the past 5 years that was real for you? James said yes. He said a lot of it was real. He was not able to look at me when he said it, which told me what his version of a lot actually was. I said, thank you for answering. My attorney will be in contact with yours. I went to the bedroom. I collected the specific things I had come back to collect. I put them in the bag I had brought from Portland. I came back to the kitchen. James said, Claire, please, can we... I said, goodbye, James. I walked out of the West Loop condo. I went to stay with a friend in Lincoln Park while the divorce process unfolded. I did not go back to the condo. I never flew home to the marriage I had arrived at in Miami. James hired an attorney 2 weeks after I came back from Portland. The divorce process is orderly in the way that all structured processes are orderly when both parties are functional professionals who understand that the alternative to orderly is expensive and slow. He asked, through his attorney, whether I would consider mediation before proceeding. I considered it for approximately 20 minutes and then told my attorney to proceed. There was nothing I needed for mediation. I had already had the conversation I needed to have at the kitchen table in the West Loop condo. The woman from room 407. I found out her name through a mutual acquaintance who told me more than I had asked for and less than I had wanted. She is not a person I have anger toward. She is a person who is in a hotel room in Miami with a married man. That is between them. I do not know what he told her about the state of his marriage. James sent me one personal message outside the attorney channel. A letter, handwritten, delivered through my friend in Lincoln Park. 3 pages. I read it once. It contained the explanation I had told him I did not need. An apology that was sincere in the way that apologies are sincerest when the person apologizing has had 3 weeks to understand the full scope of what they are apologizing for. And a request to know whether there was any possibility of a different outcome. I did not respond to the letter. I kept it, because you keep things that are the complete record of a moment, even when the moment is painful. The letter is in the same box as the anniversary card. They exist in the same box, which feels like the correct place for both of them. The condo. We sold it. Illinois is an equitable distribution state. The sale was clean. I received my share. I have not replaced it yet. I am renting in Lincoln Park while I decide what comes next. The trip. I have not been back to Miami. I do not avoid it deliberately. I simply have not been back. When I go, I will stay somewhere on a different street. Drop your city one last time. Because I want to know who is watching this that has ever chosen not to give someone the confrontation they were expecting. Not because you were afraid, because you understood that the confrontation was something they could use. Drop your city. Tell me what you chose instead. Share this video right now before you keep scrolling, and subscribe if you have not already, because the place I am now, 8 months after Collins Avenue, is the part of this story that I am telling you as a gift. Stay for it. It has been 8 months since the flight from Miami to Portland. 8 months since I sat in a lobby chair on Collins Avenue and made 2 decisions. I am in Lincoln Park. I have a studio here, not the West Loop studio, a new one, in a building with windows that face north and with a quality of light in the mornings that is very good for the kind of work I do. The first client project I completed in the new studio was a brand identity for a coffee company in Wicker Park. I'm proud of the work. It is clean and specific and communicates exactly what it intends to. Nadia came to Chicago last month. We walked along the lakefront, not the river, the lake, which is different and large and exactly the right scale for a Saturday morning conversation with your sister. She asked me how I was. I told her the truth. Better than I expected. Not yet where I am going. Somewhere between those two things, which is where most of us are most of the time. The anniversary card is still in the box. I looked at it last week. The illustration still strikes me as good work. The message inside says what I meant when I wrote it. That does not change because of what happened in room 407. I made it well. I am keeping it. James. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago. I do not know what his life looks like now. I do not spend time thinking about it. What he does with the information that he had a marriage and ended it in a Miami hotel room 45 minutes before his wife came back from the spa is his to figure out. What I do with the information, I came back early. I opened the door. I understood. I stepped back. I let it close. I went to the lobby. I booked a different flight. I have thought a great deal about those 4 seconds of the hydraulic door closing, about what was in those 4 seconds, the decision, the restraint, the understanding that the confrontation was something he could use, and that the lobby chair was mine. 4 seconds. Everything that followed came from 4 seconds of choosing not to push the door further. People ask me if I regret not confronting him in the room, not making him see me, not giving him the scene. My answer, no. The scene was something he could have managed. The lobby chair was mine. The flight to Portland was mine. The Willamette River walk was mine. The 48 hours in Portland preparing were mine. The kitchen table conversation I walked into prepared was mine. All of it, every single decision from the moment I stepped back from that door, was mine to make and mine alone. He did not get any of it. Not the confrontation, not the begging, not the please stay and hear me out. He got my attorney's contact information and a box that has both the anniversary card and his letter in it. The door closed on his own. I let it. Drop a comment below. Tell me what in this story you could not stop thinking about. The 3 inches, the lobby chair, the flight to Portland, the card in the box. I read every single comment. Subscribe to Karma Delivered. Every story on this channel is about someone who understood that the most powerful move is the one you do not explain. I did not make a sound. I just stepped back. And I never flew home. Stay solid.